Here's our new Pro Tools 10 Art of Mixing DVD series, 5 DVDs. Check out this video preview. I know by now you've already got some speakers in your room and you're thinking you're going to have a good mix. You may have spent a lot of money on those speakers and you've been mixing. And you mix something that sounds good in your room, but you play it in your car, it sounds terrible. Or you go to your cousin's house, it sounds bad. Or you play in the kitchen, it sounds bad. Or anywhere else you play it except your mixing room, it sounds good. Only sounds good in 2 places. And the problem is that it could be your room and not the speakers. And you also have to adjust for that as well, your acoustic environment. And here's the one thing I want you to do to sort of check out your room and make sure it's cool for mixing. So we've got a track set up here. I'm going to go for a new track. I'll make this track stereo. And it's a new audio track. It's in samples and it's right here. Now to go here to the insert, and we're going to go to mono plugins. Mono plugins. Go to other. And we're going to select signal generator right here. See that? And there we go. I'm going to take this down to about 60 hertz. Let me get this right on it. Right there is good. And then sort of bring this sound up right here a little bit. Now what I want you to do is I want you to walk around your room. That's right. Keep this on. Don't listen in your headsets, okay? Walk around your room. Go in the corner. Go behind your chair, walk around and stand there and see how that sound sounds. Is it getting louder in some areas? Is it cutting out in some parts of your room? You want to find out whether this modal thing is going on, where the sound's reflecting off of surfaces and creating more of this 60 hertz in other areas. Because otherwise, if you don't do this, you might be missing this low-end frequency in your mixes. So what you're hearing when you hear these pockets of buildup in the system is you're hearing this modal response, this buildup, this common issue where there could be sound coming from the ceiling and then reflecting off the wall at the same time. And this will happen when you got rooms where there are like walls of equal distance and you've got these reflective surfaces going on. And so we get this room mode happening, which creates this standing wave, which just keeps, it just gets louder in that one area, and it stays louder than it is in other parts of your room. And we want to avoid that, particularly in our listening sweet spot. This way, when you're mixing, you won't be mixing because, well, that bass sounds really loud, and really it isn't. It just means that that part of the room, that standing wave, where you are is affecting your mix because you're thinking that, yeah, wow, this bass is too loud, when really it isn't, and you've got to compensate for that. Now this will happen in even big, great studios. I mean, don't think you're the only one having a problem. Everyone's got the problem. In some rooms, there's going to be some sort of problem in that room. And why it's important to get that signal tone generator so you can listen back and see how your room sounds and where those problems are originating from. Now to compensate for that, a lot of us will put some sort of gobos or we'll treat the room. I've seen guys put egg cartons in rooms, of course, or put a lot of foam in. And a lot of foam will sort of just dead the room out. And we don't want that. We want to make sure that the room has got this great sound. And this also happens for high-end frequencies too. With reflective surfaces, you're going to have this flutter echo thing with a high-end sound, really high up there. And particularly if you got a room, let's say you've got this vocal booth and you've got that glass right there. Well, the sound's going to bounce off of there. And that high-end sound's going to reflect really quickly off of that glass and off of that surface. And you're going to get these reflections going on that you don't want and don't need. So that's why you got to make sure you've got those speakers away from the wall. You create this equidistant area between the speakers and you, where we have that triangle. And also, you got to realize you cannot go back and reconstruct your room. You have to be able to just treat the room. We can use bass traps in the corners we showed you before. in the diagram about speakers, and we can use some sort of high frequencies treatment on the ceiling and on the walls, where we can put these pads around the wall or foam around the wall, and you can sort of cut back on that sound that's happening in the room. But it's important for you to say, okay, we want to have this or have that. And then when you're listening back, and you listen back on other systems, you should be able to compensate for any problems you're having in that room and say, okay, great, I know what I need to do. I need to make sure that I'm going to have the acoustics a certain way in my room, and then I'm going to make sure when I do mix that I do hear that 60 hertz. And when you play it back on the systems, it should be good. Now, sometimes you can buy these kind of like, they've got these great stuff you can buy, which is like room EQ software, where you can use that, let's say, and pull it up in a room and sort of fix every part of your room out. And that's kind of cool if you can afford to do that. And sometimes really not that necessary, but a lot of people do want to try that. But it's important for one thing, to make sure that you do get that 60 hertz and make sure that you can hear it there. And there are easy solutions to fixing a room up, very easy. As you can see here, we put some gobos in, we can line stuff on the walls, but just make sure that you do leave the room where you do have some of these elements that do reflect a little bit. And you can always listen back to your headset and say, okay, this is how it sounds in the headset. I got that. And to also go into a car every now and then, or in the middle of your mix, or have a nice boom box out in the lounge someplace, or anywhere in the house, or go in another room with your computer and just hear it back. So you know that you're still within the range of where you should be. And it's also really cool to pull up an already mastered CD or something you really like that you're trying to mix towards, sort of a comparison mixing situation. And that way you can say, okay, I know how this song sounds. I've heard on the radio. I want to get within the range of this mix and get my mix like that. So you want to hear how it sounds in the room, make a comparison and adjust for it. So you just got to learn more about acoustics. Now, a great way to do this is to look at Mix Magazine, other magazines as well, and to talk to some studios. But the most important part is your room and the speakers in that room and the placement of those speakers in the room. And you can visit other websites that'll really help you out, like www.acoustics101.com. And there are more sites you can see that you can do. You can view actually for information about bass traps and how to use them.